I didn't change my whole life in one day. I didn't wake up as a completely new person. I didn't win the lottery, get a lucky break, or suddenly discover a secret talent. No, my life changed because of one small thing. One very small thing. At first, it felt too small to matter. It was something I could do in just 1 minute a day. But it was that one small thing that started to change everything. I want to tell you this story because maybe you feel stuck right now. Maybe you feel tired or lost. I understand. I was there too. And I want you to know that big changes don't have to start big. They can start small, so small you almost don't notice them. But with time, that small change can grow into something powerful. When I first started, I didn't think it would make a difference. Honestly, I almost didn't try it. I thought, how can something so simple change my life? But I was wrong, and now I am so thankful I was wrong. Because if I had waited for a big moment, if I had waited to feel ready for a big change, I might still be waiting today. This is why I want you to hear my story. I want you to see how one small change can lead to a completely different life. It's not magic. It's not luck. It's something you can do too. Before this small change, my days all felt the same. I woke up late, I felt heavy and tired, I went to work or school, did what I needed to do, and came home with no energy. I spent most evenings just scrolling on my phone or watching TV. I told myself I was resting, but I didn't feel rested. I felt empty. My mind was always thinking about what I didn't have, what I hadn't done, and how far I was from where I wanted to be. I was always waiting for something to happen to make me happy, but nothing came, and every day felt a little darker. I wasn't completely unhappy. I still had friends. I still laughed sometimes, but I felt like I was only half alive. I wasn't excited about anything. When people asked me how I was doing, I usually said, fine. But fine is not the same as happy. Fine is just surviving, not living. I remember thinking, is this it? Is this how my life will always be? It was a scary thought. I didn't want to feel this way forever, but I didn't know where to start. Everything felt too big, too far away. It's strange how slowly life can feel heavy. It doesn't happen all at once. One day you have a small disappointment, then another. You get busy, you forget to enjoy little things, weeks pass, then months. You stop noticing sunsets, you stop feeling proud of yourself. You start believing that maybe nothing will change. That's where I was. And I thought I needed something big to break me out of it. A new job, a new city, a new relationship. But none of those things were coming. And even if they did, I realized later, they might not have helped. I remember one evening, sitting on my bed, looking around my room and thinking, why does nothing feel exciting anymore? I had books I never read. I had clothes I didn't wear. I had ideas in my head that I never started. It wasn't because I didn't care. It was because I felt too tired, too uninspired to start anything. I felt stuck in a loop. Wake up, do what's needed, go to bed, repeat. And the worst part? I thought maybe this was normal, that maybe everyone felt this way inside, but just didn't talk about it. The turning point came on a rainy afternoon. I was at a coffee shop, waiting for a friend who was late. I was feeling a bit annoyed, just staring out the window. Then I overheard two women talking at the next table. One of them said, I started writing one thing I'm grateful for every morning. It's crazy how it changes your whole day. She said it so simply, like it was nothing. But the way she smiled when she said it, I noticed it. She looked peaceful. I remember thinking, could something so small really do that? I didn't say anything to them. I just kept looking out the window, but that sentence stayed in my mind. One thing I'm grateful for. It sounded so easy, too easy. My brain wanted to dismiss it, but another part of me was curious. I thought about how I always woke up thinking about problems. What if I tried waking up thinking about something good instead? Could it change how I felt? That little question became a seed in my mind. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. It felt like a challenge. Not a big one, just a small experiment. I decided I would try it for 1 week. Every morning, before looking at my phone, I would write down one thing I was grateful for. Just one. No pressure, no rules, no perfect sentences. It could be anything. A warm cup of tea, a song I liked, a text from a friend. I wanted to see if it made even a tiny difference. The next morning, I woke up early. I sat up in bed with a small notebook and a pen. At first, I didn't know what to write. My mind went blank. But then I thought about my soft blanket, keeping me warm. So I wrote, "I am grateful for my blanket." It felt silly, but I noticed something. I smiled, just a little. And then I went on with my day. It wasn't a magical day. I still had work to do and problems to solve. But there was a lightness in me that hadn't been there for a while. On the second morning, I woke up and reached for my phone without thinking. My hand was halfway there before I remembered, no, first gratitude. I pulled my hand back and picked up the little notebook instead. I stared at the page for a few seconds. I was tired, my head was heavy, and I didn't feel like thinking about good things. But I told myself, just find one. I thought about the smell of fresh coffee in the kitchen. My roommate had already made a pot. So I wrote, "I am grateful for coffee in the morning." It was simple, but as I wrote it, I felt my shoulders drop, like a little tension left my body. I smiled again, just a small smile, but it felt real. By the end of the first week, I had written down 7 things. Some were big, I am grateful for my health, and some were small. I am grateful for the sound of rain. The change wasn't dramatic. I wasn't dancing in the streets or shouting with joy, but something inside me felt different. My mornings felt softer. I didn't wake up thinking about stress first. I noticed small, nice things during the day because I knew I would write about one of them the next morning. It was like my mind was learning to look for good things instead of only problems. Of course, there were days I didn't want to do it. One morning I was late for work, and I thought, I don't have time for this. But then I realized it only took 1 minute. So I wrote something quickly. I am grateful for my shoes. It was rushed, but it still counted. Another day I felt upset about something and didn't want to pretend to be happy. But gratitude wasn't about pretending. It was about noticing even one small good thing, even in a bad day. So I wrote, I am grateful for my pillow. It didn't fix my problem, but it reminded me there was still comfort in my life. After 2 weeks, I noticed something surprising. I was speaking differently. When someone asked how I was, I didn't just say, fine, automatically. Sometimes I said, I'm good, and actually meant it. My friends started noticing that I smiled more. I didn't even realize it was happening. I also started sleeping a little better. I think it was because I didn't go to bed carrying as much stress. I had trained my mind to think about good things every day. One small change started to ripple into other areas of my life. I began to take short walks in the evening, just to notice nice things to be grateful for later, like the way the sunset painted the sky pink or the smell of bread from a bakery. I started sending short messages to friends, telling them I appreciated them. Gratitude made me want to share more kindness because I realized how much kindness I had already received in my life. It was like planting one small seed that grew branches in every direction. Then came a real test. I had a very bad day at work. A project I worked on for weeks was rejected. I came home feeling defeated. My old habit would have been to complain in my head all night, maybe eat junk food and go to bed angry. But that evening, I remembered my notebook. I didn't want to open it. I wanted to stay in my bad mood, but I forced myself. I thought for a while and wrote, I am grateful for my friend Anna who listened to me today. Writing it didn't erase the rejection, but it made me remember that I was not alone. By the 3rd week, I realized something powerful. My problems hadn't disappeared, but my reaction to them had changed. Before, a bad day felt like a black cloud over my whole life. Now, a bad day was just one day, because I could still see good things inside it. I started to believe that maybe life wasn't as bad as I thought. Maybe it was my focus that had been the problem, not my life itself. That was a big realization for me. Around this time, people started to notice the difference. A coworker asked me, "Why are you always in a good mood lately?" I laughed because I knew I wasn't always in a good mood, but I was in a better mood than before. I told her about my one small change. She looked surprised. "That's it?" she asked. "Just writing one thing a day?" I nodded. She said she might try it too. That's when I realized this habit wasn't just helping me, it could help others. As my mind got lighter, my energy grew. I started finishing small tasks I had been avoiding for months, like cleaning my desk, fixing a broken drawer, and reading one of those books I had left untouched. It was strange. I didn't push myself to do more. It just happened naturally. I think it was because I no longer felt stuck in negative thoughts all the time. Gratitude gave me mental space, and in that space, motivation appeared. By the end of the first month, I realized I was living in a new way. I was still me. My job, my home, my friends, none of that had changed. But I was seeing life differently. I no longer waited for big events to feel happy. I noticed joy in small, ordinary things, like the smell of fresh laundry, the taste of cold water on a hot day, or the sound of a song I loved. And that made me feel richer than I had ever felt before. All from one small change. All right, here's paragraphs 21 through 30, each about 400 through 500 words, emotional and rich, to bring your story to a powerful close. This section will cover the big life shift, lesson for the audience, and closing inspiration. Paragraph 21, the month that changed me. Looking back, it's almost strange to think how quickly a small notebook and a pen became part of my life. In just a month, the act of writing one thing I was grateful for had gone from being an experiment to something I didn't want to skip. It was no longer a task I had to remember, it was a moment I looked forward to. I realized that this 1 minute each morning was quietly reshaping my mind. Before, I would wake up with 1,000 thoughts about what might go wrong that day. Now, my first thought was often about what had gone right yesterday. That shift alone made my days lighter. My relationships began to change too. When you start noticing the good in your own life, you start noticing the good in other people. I started telling my friends what I appreciated about them, and their reactions showed me how rare it is to hear that from someone. Gratitude was like a door I had opened inside myself, and behind it there was more warmth, more connection, and more hope than I had ever expected to find. Paragraph 22. When everything looks the same but feels different. The strange part was, if someone had looked at my life from the outside, they might have thought nothing had changed. I still lived in the same apartment. I still worked at the same job. I still took the same bus every morning. But on the inside, everything was different. The bus ride I used to hate became a time for me to notice the morning light or the way the city slowly woke up. My apartment, which used to feel dull, now felt like a safe space filled with little things I loved. Even my job seemed less exhausting because I approached it with a calmer, more open mind. That's when I learned something huge. Change isn't always about changing your circumstances. Sometimes it's about changing your eyes, the way you see the world. And once your eyes change, everything changes. Paragraph 23. The power of the small step. It still amazes me that all this started with one tiny decision. I didn't buy expensive courses. I didn't move to another country. I didn't make 100 new rules for my life. I just wrote one sentence a day. But here's the secret. When you do something small every single day, it doesn't stay small. It grows. It becomes a habit. And habits are powerful because they shape who you are without you even noticing. This is why so many people never change. They think they need a big, dramatic action, so they never start. But the truth is, you just need one small step you can repeat. That's what carries you forward, even when motivation fades. Over time, my gratitude habit began to inspire other changes without me forcing them. Because I started my day with a positive thought, I found it easier to make positive choices. I began to drink more water, eat healthier meals, and take short walks. I started reading again, just a few pages at first, then whole chapters. I called old friends I had lost touch with. I even started saving a little money because I felt more in control of my life. None of these changes felt heavy or impossible. They happened naturally because I had built a foundation of positivity in my mornings. It's like planting one flower in a garden. Soon you want to plant another and another until the whole space is blooming. Sometimes I think about the person I was before I made this change. I was waiting for life to make me happy instead of learning how to be happy with life. I thought I needed to fix everything on the outside before I could feel better on the inside. But now I know it works the other way. You start inside and the outside begins to shift. If I could go back and talk to my old self, I would say, don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for a big sign. Just pick one paragraph, small thing you can do today, and do it. I'm telling you all this because I want you to know something important. You can do this too. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need everything in your life to be fixed first. You just need one small change you can stick with every day. It might not be gratitude for you. Maybe it's drinking a glass of water when you wake up. Maybe it's writing one sentence in a journal. Maybe it's stretching for 5 minutes. The point is, you choose something small and you keep doing it. And slowly, it will start to change the way you see yourself and your life. Why does something so small have so much power? I think it's because it teaches your brain that change is possible. When you prove to yourself that you can show up every day for a tiny habit, you start to believe you can show up for bigger things too. You stop feeling powerless. You stop waiting for luck. You start trusting yourself. And when you trust yourself, you stop giving up so easily. That's when life starts to feel different, not because everything is perfect, but because you finally feel capable of facing it. So, I want you to think about this. What is your one small change? Don't overthink it. Don't choose something huge you know you can't keep up. Choose something so simple that you can do it even on your worst days. That's the trick. If it's easy enough to do when you're tired, sad, or busy, it will stay with you. And once it stays with you, it will grow. Write it down. Start tomorrow morning. Or even better, start today. If someone had told me years ago that my future would begin with writing, "I am grateful for my blanket," I would have laughed. But now I know that big futures start quietly. They start when you decide to do something small and keep doing it, even when it feels silly or unimportant. You never know where it will lead. One day, you'll look back and realize that small change was the moment everything started to shift. And you'll be thankful you didn't wait for the perfect time. You just began. So here is what I leave you with. Your future doesn't start with a big leap. It starts with one small step. One step you take today and tomorrow and the day after. One step that builds trust in yourself. One step that teaches your mind to see the good around you. You don't need to wait. You don't need permission. You can begin now. And one day, you'll tell your own story of how one small change changed everything.